If it's love, I want everything. Touch my soul, touch my heart, don't judge my mental. They told me that life is simple, been real since Papa Pimple. I started out in the rental, sonata, the presidential. Speak once and listen twice, they told me that less is simple.
GATV was good, family, was good. So I saw an interesting article earlier today, and I missed out on this last year, although I didn't have my channel last year. But it was an interesting topic, man, and it gave me ideas about, you know, what we could do with the so-called gang culture. I'm up to here with all of that stuff anyway, so there's not a lot of sympathy I have for folks who engage in those type of activities anymore. Like, you know, there's just nothing you can tell me. When you're a family that has, you know, victims of murder, from murder and things of that nature, you know, it affects the whole family, man. And, you know, my family went through it. I'll go into details a little later about it. You know, I showed a picture of my dad's brother who was a victim of a murder. But going into this gang culture, I noticed El Salvador has continued their efforts and crackdown on rounding up about 6,000 gang members in 10 days. And this was a response, you know, for a killing spree that was going on about, you know, for 2 months. No, actually, I think the window was about, you know, an entire month of March. A killing spree was happening with the gang members, just, you know, chaos, everything you could think of under the sun. And so the new administration in El Salvador, you know, they went to straight action, man. You know, I remember in the early 90s, we had such a thing where they deemed our children to be super predators without demonstrating the understanding, the root effects, the mental effects, the psychological effects that goes into a young individual joining the gang. And I still to this day think that is inhumane to label children, you know, super predators. But the thing that I can talk about is some of these older folks that still pushes this crap, 40s, 50s, and it's like, what are you doing, you know? When I was a child, I thought like a child. When I was a man, I put those foolish things away. I mean, we don't have these concepts, you know? And I just want to play a quick news coverage on this from from NBC News. I want to push NBC News coverage on this. So let's check out this video and I'll come back with my commentary.
A frightening image inside a prison in El Salvador, and President Nayib Bukele wants the world to see. He says it shows gang members punished and kept in crowded cells away from any sunlight since the end of March. Bukele says the food is now being rationed to 2 meals per day for gang members now facing harsher sentences. For 10 days, the country's national police has been operating with less restrictions. They say they've arrested over 6,000 suspected gang members, tracking them in neighborhoods, inside homes, and even hiding underground. The crackdown in response to one of the deadliest weekends in El Salvador. Authorities reporting 67 homicides in a single day, prompting a state of emergency that gave way to mass arrest and tougher punishment to gang members already behind bars. This week, President Bukele doubling down on his efforts.
Ustedes desatan una ola de criminalidad y nosotros quitamos la comida en las cárceles.
Threatening that any retaliation to the recent crackdown would lead to further punishment.
Por ahí andan rumores que quieren empezarse a vengar de la gente honrada, al azar. Hagan eso y no va a haber un tiempo de comida en las cárceles. Uno. A ver cuánto tiempo duran sus homeboys allá adentro.
For days, the president touting the efforts on social media under the hashtag War on Gangs. Bukele even asking parents to show the videos to their teenage children and warn them, saying gangs can only lead to prison or death. President Bukele, operating with the support of residents and Congress, which first approved the state of emergency that allows for all new detainees to be held for 15 days without access to an attorney. Bukele responding to criticism, accusing them of defending the gangs.
Y no me importa lo que digan los organismos internacionales, que vengan a proteger a nuestra gente, que vengan a llevarse a sus pandilleros, si tanto los quieren.
Now, before I get into my commentary on this, understand what we're dealing with if we dare to shed a light on what we're doing in our own communities. Look at all of these comments. You see some that have accountability and put it on us, because you need that if you want to have change. Change is the only constant, my friends. Yet it seems like we're stagnant on that. Now, how can change be the only constant yet we're stagnant? Now look at the positive comments, and then I know you saw some of the negative comments, and it's like, if you dare ever try to not, I wouldn't say call out, just put the onus on us to do better for us, you get negative responses. And this is one of the reasons why we're not rising up. Now, even with the component of retaliation from said gang members, residents took up arms with the police because they have had enough. And in our communities, the biggest problems that we have is, see, in private, people will tell you, everything that is the detriment in our community, everything that swindles down to the effects of community hardship, to where we have nothing but angst amongst each other. You have an overwhelming attitude of, nobody caring. But they'll talk to you about a lot of these things in private. But we have people with notoriety that will never call this out. They will never call this out. So that's my biggest thing with a movement like FBA, with the movement like the B1s, with the movement within the Pan-African community. The biggest problem that I have on both sides, we seem to neglect the community as a whole in terms of not necessarily just calling out, but being proactive. That's why I thought it was so cool hearing the part that the residents in El Salvador took place to help their police members, and in our culture, it's like oil and vinegar when you think of the relations of the black community and the police. But guys, I'm telling you right now, things have to start somewhere, man. Shout out to the Charleston Whites of the world and the many people who are like him that maybe not get the same coverage or clout, but we know there are people in our communities that are being proactive, not just talking about it. And I just thought this was an interesting piece to cover. You can make a difference when people are on the same community guidelines. As Tariq would love to say, be on code. We're always on code on defending our most horrible natures, or rather depictions of who we are, but we're never on code on being proactive to get rid of people that look like me and you who are nothing in our community, nothing but detriments. That's the things we have to be on code about. Am I really a snitch if I want to make sure my community is on point for my children? No matter how bad it was for me when I was growing up in the 90s, it was never that bad where you couldn't just go to the park. It was never that bad where I couldn't just walk down the street and have to worry about younger folks and older folks having crossfires happening, gun battles in broad daylight, random attacks now. Especially with inflation, the correlation with crime and economics goes hand in hand, and that is something also to consider. But the outright accountability falls on the hands of each individual. See, we could complain about how poor we are, what we don't have. It's not an excuse for what's going on, and I'm going to keep speaking against this, keep this pressure going on. We have to be proactive. So yes, I may advocate for the youth, I may work with the youth, but that's not just enough. I will be one of those folks calling the damn police, making sure your ass is out of here if you are nothing but a loser in my neighborhood. You don't help, you don't contribute, you only take away, and you cause harm and damage. I will be one of those constantly. That was a battle I had to face myself because of how I grew up and who I was raised around. But all that crap, it means nothing, man. When you become a father, when you have loved ones, even if you're none of that, if you're not a parent at all, you can't even get outside of your community and enjoy the nice day. Enjoy the weather. You gotta keep hearing news about somebody else being killed, robbed, murdered, raped. I mean, come on, y'all. So when I just saw this news coverage, I thought the thing that stood out to me, the people in that community came together with the cops to work. They arrested over 6,000 gang members in 10 days. Don't tell me third world countries can accomplish this, but us in one of the most, if not the most developed nation in the world cannot. That takes a lot to really appreciate, or rather undervalue, that most people will after watching this, of the powers that we truly have. But we use deflection tactics. We're worried about everything outside of this, realm, man. And we got to get back to being proactive. Shout out to the Black Panthers. Them folks didn't play that mess. They used to take a lot of you folks out of here if you was one of the problems in the communities. So it's not always talking about white supremacy. It starts with self-accountability. Gravitating away. Hope you understand those gems. Keep growing with me. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm telling y'all, help me with this motion. Hit that notification bell.